Harassment from my mother-in-law Anita. At first, I put up with it, but if I thought she was getting carried away, I stopped listening and quickly came up with some excuses to leave the place. I became distressed by the accumulation of such incidents. I researched on the internet and various books about problems between mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law and how to solve them. I even gave her a gift of a brand name item after discussing it with my husband. She seemed happy, perhaps because my husband was there, but she didn't thank me and I never saw her use it. I'm Nancy, a 26-year-old housewife. I met my husband Dan through work and got married 2 years ago. He was self-employed and quite busy. We lived with his parents. It was them who proposed that we live together. Dan was the eldest son and was very family-oriented. I knew there was no way for me to refuse from the moment the idea came up. Anita was particularly enthusiastic. We have renovated and added more rooms to the house. You will have your own space, so it's not a bad deal, right? She said over and over again. Although I accepted it, I made it clear that we would not interfere in each other's lives as much as possible. If I told her directly, it would have raised an issue, so I asked Dan to do it. When she was told that, she looked quite displeased. In the end, she was happier to be able to live with us and accepted the condition. I had been working as a temp before, but when I got married, I quit the job at Dan's request. To be honest, I didn't really like housework and was not good at being idle at home. Instead, I got busy taking online courses and acquiring skills. I had come to understand after living together with Anita that she was much more nagging and particular than I had expected. One day, I heard her shouting from the bathroom. Hey Nancy! I told you many times to buy the same kind of detergent. I'm sorry, Anita. I couldn't find it at the usual supermarket. Then go around to the other ones until you find it. If I did the laundry, she told me in detail which detergent to use and which clothes to wash together. One time, whether she was just having a bad day or she really didn't agree with the way I did it, she told me to redo all the laundry. Don't worry about it. They're probably clean. Don't talk back to me. You're so sloppy. I can't believe you. She glared at me. When she got upset, she did unimaginable things compared to her petite and skinny figure, and I couldn't handle it. She once threw my favorite dress that was hanging out in the yard on the ground and made it all muddy. I got nervous whenever she started having a fit. I had never done any housework, and it was all on me. Since it was for the whole family, it was quite a lot. She had a mug of coffee I had prepared in her hand and watched me work with a smile on her face. It made me somewhat angry. I consulted Dan several times. He was very helpful, taking time out of his busy schedule to listen to me. It was just that he was a bit timid and couldn't take a strong stance toward his mother. I had been patient with her at first. Later on, if she got carried away, I learned not to listen to her and quickly came up with excuses to leave. When I became distressed by the accumulation of such incidents, I searched the internet and visited the library. I looked into problems and solutions between in-laws on the website and in various books and took countermeasures in that way. I pretended that I didn't care and listened to her with good humor. I tried to talk back a little. I also picked a time when she seems to be in a good mood and told her nicely what I wanted her to stop doing. I even gave her gifts that matches her taste. I spoke to Dan about it, and we went a little crazy with the brand. She seems to be pleased with the gift because perhaps Dan was there but she didn't utter a word of appreciation. After glancing at it, she never used it. Her petty complaints continued every day. I began to think that it was different from the promise we made when we moved in together in the first place. She used me as her housekeeper. Her upbringing and educational background had something to do with the way she treated me. She was born and raised as the only daughter of the slightly wealthy family. She attended a private high school and graduated from a private university. On the other hand, my mother died of illness early in my life. I grew up in a father-daughter household and started working as soon as I graduated from middle school. A college graduate versus not even GED. Despite the different circumstances, the fact was the fact. "You are really lucky, aren't you?" she always said sarcastically to me. "You are married to Dan even though you have a low education. Thanks to our kindness, you are blessed with a good life. But I think you should have known your place and stepped aside." I was at a loss for words. "You should at least devote yourself to housework and take responsibility for lowering our family standard," she triumphantly proclaimed to me. I didn't know what standard she was talking about, but I doubted a normal person would say such a thing. When I looked up the university she graduated from, I found that it wasn't as outstanding as she made it out to be. It didn't have a history or tradition to be proud of, and the rate of getting into grad school or employment was not that great either. I was not impressed. For her, I guessed it was more like having a daughter-in-law who was not at all in line with her beloved son. She loved to travel with her friends and also took equestrian lessons amongst other hobbies. When she returned from a trip, she was usually in a good mood and bragged about it to me. "My hobbies enrich me and relieve my stress. They are indispensable for me," she declared, but her hobbies were quite expensive and concerning to me. The travel destination was often overseas. Her host cost a lot of money to be boarded. She left all the housework to me and was able to freely make her own schedule. I didn't see her as having a stressful life. If there was stress, it should have been mostly dissipated by bullying me. Moreover, whenever she needed money, she always came to us. "Hey, can you lend me some money? I really want something right now. I repay you back." It escalated to the point that Dan even had to tell her, "Aren't you spending a little too much? I can't give you any more this month." She seems not to care and came up with some excuses to persistently ask for more. He usually ended up giving her money after all. She always said she was going to pay us back, but we never received any money back. I let out a sigh as I kept an accounting book. We had lent her over $2,000 since the beginning of that year. It was only the beginning of summer then, and it was not looking so good for the future. At that moment, she passed by and rushed me to make lunch for her. It was a usual occurrence, but it pricked my nerve for some reason at that time. "Could you go and buy or order your lunch today? I'm too busy and already tired." She looked at me with a puzzled look on her face, but she immediately became angry. "What a lazy person you are! You can't do anything but housework, so you should at least cook lunch. I always tell you that something simple is enough for me. There are supermarkets and delis within walking distance that serve delicious ready-made food. I have other things to do. I've explained it to you several times before." "Are you serious? You want me to walk? I don't want to. Stop talking and hurry up. I'm hungry." She and I were talking in parallel. Well, it was the same old thing, so I didn't feel anything anymore. I had something I really needed to do that day. I excused myself and got up from my seat. She was infuriated seeing me leave. You're an ungrateful bastard. An incompetent girl like you don't need to be in this house. I couldn't remain silent being called names. Incompetent? What is incompetent about me? Please enlighten me. What about you in that case? You leave the housework to me and spend all your time playing around, and you even ask me for money. Who are you to tell me that I'm incompetent? She flinched a little at my unusual stern retort compared to my usually careful wording and calm tone. She continued to counterattack me. Enough! Get out of here! I'll have you guys get a divorce! I involuntarily tightened my expression, but inwardly I was thinking it was a good chance. I tried to keep as calm as possible and responded to her. That's fine. I'm actually happy to leave. I've been wondering what good there is for me in this kind of life, but you're going to regret it. I immediately turned my back on her and went to my room. I felt surprisingly refreshed. It was as if I were the heroine of some movie. She was cursing me out, but I could care less. Soon after that, I packed my necessities and left the house. I called Dan to make sure he wasn't going to worry. He sounded quite surprised at first. I told him about all the bullying I had been keeping in my heart. I'm really sorry, even though I didn't know about it until now. You've been in so much pain, and I wasn't there to help you. He apologized regretfully. It was a typical Dan, I thought to myself. I know I have faults too. It's already past anyway. I just need some time away. Riding the train to my dad's house, I fell asleep thinking back on everything that had happened since we got married. I was startled by the announcement that had arrived at the station. It was dusk and a chilly wind was blowing. To my surprise, I saw my dad standing at the exit. He was usually very quiet and a little stubborn, and I never knew what he was thinking, so I didn't expect him to come all the way to pick me up. I noticed that he had lost a little weight and gained some gray hair while we hadn't seen each other for a while. When we were walking side by side, he said quietly, "You've been through a lot." I'm sorry that I made you worry. I suppressed the tears that were threatening to well up in my eyes. Don't worry about it. I felt a warmth in my chest. We walked along the road to his house while catching up on our lives. When I was just getting used to living at my dad's, I noticed that I had many missed calls on my phone. My friends normally sent me messages and rarely called me. I got a bad feeling about it. When I checked, they were all from Anita. I looked at the details and saw that she had been calling several times every few minutes. After what happened, I hadn't been able to forget about it yet. To be honest, I didn't want to call her back. I reluctantly decided to do so, thinking it might have been something important. Then, she picked up right away, as if she has been waiting for me. I was surprised to hear her listless voice. "Hi, Nancy. I'm very sorry. Please come back." I was a little taken back. "What's wrong?" "Well, I was cleaning Dan's room a couple days ago, and I found something. I think it's a financial statement." I knew what she was talking about. Dan's company was incorporated half a year ago, so it was normal for him to make detailed statements. A statement? What about it? "I had no idea he was making so little. You knew it, didn't you? Why didn't you tell me?" She became emotional and suddenly raised her voice. I had the urge to cover my ears at the sound of her usual tone, which I hadn't heard in a while. "I've told you about it several times, but it sounds like you never listened to me." "I don't remember that." "Well, I guess you don't. You love talking about yourself, but you're not interested in what I tell you." "I'm going to buy another horse. I've already signed the contract. Please, Can you lend me some money? She made such an insolent request to me even at that point. I let out a small sigh and answered, "Well, Dan and I are not your wallets. Please use your own savings. Besides, you will eventually receive a pension, right? Why don't you try to manage within your means?" "I don't have much savings. Please, I'm begging you." "Before that, do you have enough money to live on this month? I think you were just barely making ends meet last month. Since the one who has been cooking for you is gone, you must have been eating out or buying food all the time." She cleared her throat and fell silent as if I had hit the bull's eye. "Your cooking wasn't bad. Actually, Dan told me to apologize to you and reflect on what I had done." "Oh, did he? Well, I don't care anymore." Of course, I didn't mean it, but I couldn't think of anything else to say. I just strongly hoped that I didn't have to be involved with her anymore. Unaware of my thought, she happily continued, "Is that so? That's great. Now we are reconciled. Will you come back soon?" Her tone of voice brightened. I was amazed by her self-serving way of thinking. "I can't live with you again, so please move on. Instead, you might want to worry more about your own future." "What? What do you mean?" She was puzzled as she had no idea. I didn't need to explain to her then, but she would have understood when the time came. Thinking I had said enough, I hung up the phone. She had a lot of time on her hands. She continued to call me persistently after that. I had no choice but to block her. 6 months have passed since then. I'm watching my dog happily running around in my yard. It's a pleasant morning and just right for basking in the sun. After careful discussion with Dan, we ended our cohabitation with my in-laws. Then, we bought a beautiful semi-new house that had just come on the market. We have a mortgage now. It has a better layout than before and is more comfortable to live in. We chose a location that was convenient for Dan's work. He is more lively than before. As for my in-laws, they are now stuck paying their mortgage because we are no longer helping them. They have moved to a small apartment far out of town. Of course, Anita been complaining a lot. I feel sorry for my father-in-law, who seems to be sandbagged by her. Since she had spent so much money on her hobbies to enjoy her life, he was left with almost nothing in his savings account. After he told her to live frugally, she started to do housework more than before. When she cooks, it takes quite a long time to make one dish, which neither looks good nor tastes good. I've heard that my father-in-law is better than her. She had been nagging me so much, but it turns out she can't even do it herself. How embarrassing. It no longer matters to me anyway. I've gotten a GED and plan to attend a university in the fall. I'm accepted to a popular university with a long history and tradition. I have always been good at mathematics and interested in economics. I taught myself stock trading from the time I was working as a temp and played around online. I started with a small amount of money at first and gradually increased the size of my fund. Dan's business was hit hard by the recession when I left home after a dispute with Anita, and his income dropped considerably. At that time, I was earning a steady profit and was able to bring some income into the household. Because of my father-in-law's pride and Dan's wishes, we did not inform my parents-in-law about it. If they watched my behavior very closely and had common sense, they would have noticed. While we lived together, Anita looked down on me from the start and treated me like a housekeeper. In the end, she missed the opportunity to live happily as a family. I did think about divorcing Dan at one point. However, after discussing it with him and my father-in-law, we agreed that she would have no contact with me in the future. In fact, I'm feeling much better, and my investments are going quite well since I stopped seeing her. The hot coffee I drink while being soothed by the sight of my cute dog brings me such joy in my life. I will be a university student starting in the fall. I look up at the clear sky, excited with anticipation.
No, I don't want your wife to find out about this. She won't. She's working hard right now. Let's just have fun. Oh my God. I know already. I muttered to myself in disgust. I left work early and came home. Then I heard voices that sounded like something out of porn coming from my bedroom. My life all of a sudden became a daytime soap opera. Unaware of my presence outside the door, the voices were getting steamier. Yes, more jesting. What a naughty girl. Burning in hatred, nausea surged through me. I loathed him for calling his mistress a naughty girl while we had a small daughter. I looked down at the lacy underwear in the corridor and clenched my fists. Then I took a deep breath to retaliate. I don't mean to brag, but I thought we were a picture-perfect family. My husband Justin, our daughter, and I lived harmoniously. He was a very handsome father. Our daughter Kat was a little shy, but growing up healthy. She was about to start kindergarten, and I was sure she would get over her shyness. My relationship with my mother-in-law was also excellent. We lived nearby, so we often visited each other. Justin's parents divorced a long time ago. His mother Susan lived alone. She was a very independent person and enjoyed her own life without being dependent on her only son. I learned of her good character as soon as I met her for the first time. Justin and I met on a dating app. We both enjoyed camping and started talking through that connection. Eventually, we started meeting in real life and became an official couple after we went camping together. Marriage popped into both of our minds at one point. I was honestly worried when we were about to meet each other's family. Meeting people on an app was normal in our generation, but it was not the case for my parents. Frankly speaking, they were reluctant at first, and Justin must have felt bad. On the contrary, Susan was the total opposite. That's nice. I envy you guys. My generation didn't have such a way of meeting people. You don't think it's weird? No way. Times change, and so does the way of encounters. Besides, you seem to be a nice girl, so I can trust you with him. I was so relieved to hear that, and the tears welled up involuntarily in my eyes. From that day on, we got along so well. It sounds so stuffy to be called Mrs. Morrison. Call me Susan. After she asked me to call her by first name, I think we got to know each other better. She was a curious person by nature and learned to be familiar with SNS in no time. She started learning photography at the same time and uploaded the photos she took on her page. She even took cats out often, telling me to cherish my alone time. They seemed to enjoy each other's company, and I could take a breather while they were out. I was surprised at how well our marriage was going. Although I had been a full-time housewife since our marriage. When Kat started kindergarten, I took a part-time job. I had been a licensed pharmacist, so I quickly found a place to work. I didn't mind being at home, but it was fulfilling to make use of my qualifications. Susan came to visit me once in a while, and my work days were quite enjoyable. However, something terrible happened to those peaceful days. That day, I had a sore throat from the morning. By lunchtime, I was coughing non-stop. Hey, are you okay? It's not that busy today. You can leave early. I'm sorry. May I take your word for it? Of course. Get better soon. I thanked my manager and left work quickly. While waiting for the elevator at my apartment, I sent a message to Susan asking if she could pick Kat up. I was relieved when she immediately agreed. I had been working extra shifts, so maybe I was just getting tired. I thought to ask Justin to come home on time as the elevator door opened. The moment I got into it, I frowned at the overwhelming sweet scent of perfume. I wondered if the person before me was wearing it. It was an unusual scent. I got off my floor and arrived at my door. As soon as I opened it, a pair of unfamiliar pumps came into view. Next to them were Justin's leather shoes, which were not supposed to be there. You're kidding, right? I went inside quietly and gently closed the door. I looked down the hallway and saw a flashy, shocking pink coat thrown on the floor. I struggled to keep myself from collapsing and walked toward the bedroom. My suspicions were confirmed. No, I don't want your wife to find out about this. She won't. She's working hard right now. Let's just have fun. Oh my God. I know already. I came home and heard voices that sounded like something out of a poem coming from our bedroom. My life all of a sudden became a daytime soap opera. Unaware of my presence outside the door, their voices were getting steamier. Yes, more Justin. What a naughty girl. His voice disgusted me so badly. I loathed him for calling his mistress a naughty girl while we had a small daughter. I looked down at the lacy underwear in the hallway and clenched my fists. Then I took a deep breath to retaliate. I'm home, I shouted and stamped my feet on the spot. At that moment, the voices in the bedroom died down. The reaction was so obvious that I was amazed, and I almost burst out into laughter. Is that you, Justin? I continued and finally heard a voice from inside saying, Shit. That pretty much explains the situation correctly. It was unjustifiable, and I was standing in the doorway. The only place to hide was in the bedroom closet. I was curious how he was going to excuse himself. Then I heard the balcony window open. I didn't think they would escape outside. I thought it was such a childish act as I opened the bedroom door wide. There, I saw a messy bed and hastily closed the curtain. I stared at the window and saw two buttocks peeking through. Stifling a giggle, I went near the window and called Justin's name again. I found a small brand name bag under the bed. There was a small wallet and a phone inside. The phone displayed a message from Justin. Room 502 was the room number of our apartment. It was clear that he had invited the woman home. However, this alone was not enough to prove his adultery. There was no way to unlock the password to her phone, so I looked at his phone, which was tucked between the sheets. I easily opened it using Kat's birthday. There was an icon I didn't recognize. When I opened it, I found that it was an app that deleted messages after a certain amount of time. He had been communicating with her there. I took a screenshot and sent it to my phone. I also took a picture of the driver's license that was in her wallet. I had all the evidence I needed. Then I received a message from Susan. The content was that she would be arriving soon. Although I hesitated for a bit, I sent the evidence of Justin's affair to her as well. I added a note asking her to look on the balcony. After a while, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Susan frowning. For some reason, she had an SLR camera hanging around her neck. "Hi, Debbie." I left Kat with the superintendent, so she didn't see anything. "I appreciate that. I'm sorry I dragged you into this." "It's okay. I never thought I'd see my own child looking so foolish." "Where is he?" "Still out on the balcony." When she went into the bedroom, Justin and his mistress were frantically banging on the window. He was sniffling from the cold and shouting apologies, but I was a little horrified by the maniac look on his face. I took a step backward, and Susan took strides toward the window. "Debbie, what do you want to do?" "We can leave them out like this." If he agrees to a divorce, I'm willing to let them in." "Oh no, I apologize. Let's talk first. You want to spend the night there? Be my guest." "Oh, okay. I agree." As soon as she unlocked the door, they rolled into the room. The way they were covering themselves with the blanket, shivering and shaking, was almost a little pitiful. But Susan was relentless. "Sit, you stupid thing." At the sound of her voice, both of them straightened their posture with pale faces. "Justin, you know why your dad and I divorced, right? Tell me." "It was his infidelity." "No way." I couldn't believe my ears when I heard the reason for the first time. His parents split up because of his dad's affair, and I couldn't believe he did the same thing. She fiercely scolded him, and then did the same to the mistress as well. To my surprise, she was married. She was his ex-coworker who had left the job after getting married. Susan continued to lecture them for the next hour, and then the mistress left wearing the soaking wet clothes. When I tried to speak to him about the divorce, Justin started saying I had no proof. I showed him the screenshot, and Susan took pictures of them on the balcony with her camera. She had originally brought it to take pictures of Kat and use it at a moment's notice. I was surprised at how well it captured the scene without any blurriness, and was impressed by her skill. After that, Kat and I stayed with Susan. A week later, she and I took the divorce papers to Justin and stood firmly in front of him. Susan introduced me to a lawyer who explained that I could get alimony for sure. I made it clear to Justin at that point. Perhaps that was why he was reluctant to go through it. I mean, it was only for the last half a year or so. Why can't you forgive me? Are you serious? I'm just saying that you should take that into consideration. You're so stubborn. Don't make excuses for yourself. Susan yelled at him, and he finally started reading the papers. I had learned that she was unimaginably scary when she got angry. After that, I, under the advice of my lawyer, requested temporary court orders for custody and child support. I heard that he was depressed about the amount of alimony, but that was no longer my concern. The case was sparked unexpectedly. Look, Debbie, it's Justin in the video. Susan showed me her SNS screen, which showed a video of the full scene on the balcony that day. I checked the account name that uploaded it, and it was my next door neighbor. Come to think of it, she talked a lot about herself being an influencer. Justin deserved what happened to him, but the video was taken from an angle that could easily identify the apartment building. I thought other tenants would have been inconvenienced. I requested to the platform that the video be removed, which was easily granted. Not only that, but the neighbor's account was removed as well. It became a big deal somehow, but I was relieved to have it done anyway. A year later, my divorce is finalized, and Kat and I have been living in a new apartment. I have a new full-time job now. I'm busy with work and raising my child. Although I was worried about her, she has adjusted to her new environment more easily than I expected. We continue to have a good relationship with Susan too. After the video fiasco, I was much appreciated by my ex-neighbors. The supposed influencer had been bragging about herself everywhere and was seen as a nuisance. Some of Justin's co-workers saw the video, and rumors spread quickly. He was asked to resign for damaging his company's image. He also ended up separating from his mistress. He apparently visited Susan for help, but she turned him away by dumping a bucket of water on him from the balcony. Just imagining the scene was amusing, and I couldn't help but laugh. Now there's laundry to do. Today is my day off, and Kat is out with Susan. It's the perfect day to get the accumulated chores done. I tried to go out on the balcony to sun the pillows, but my legs freeze. I see Justin frantically tapping on the window. I was so desperate that I didn't think of it. Looking back, he could have attacked me. He has lost his job and his credibility now. There might be a chance that he resents me and comes to my house. I chose an apartment building with a good security system in place and a room with a balcony facing the main street. I realized that the scars he has left on me are much deeper than I thought. I take a deep breath and go out on the balcony. It's a beautiful day with a clear blue sky. I feel my phone vibrate in my pocket. It's Susan. Wow, so nice. There's a picture of Kat smiling broadly in a flower field.
I sold all your stuff. I'm going to the Keys with the money.
What? Why did you do that?
Just for childbirth. You overreacted by going back home for so long. It's a punishment for throwing away your responsibilities at home. You should be very sorry for what you did and behave from now on. My mother-in-law showed me the $100 bills she must have gotten from selling my personal belongings and smirked at me. After a difficult pregnancy, my baby was finally born. And yet, the moment I returned home, I'm greeted by her harassment. Do I have to live in this hostile environment for the rest of my life? Being bullied by mother-in-law while raising a child and doing housework. I absolutely cannot endure such a life. My body trembles with anger. An inexpressible emotion overcomes me. Then, things take a sudden turn. An unexpected outcome falls upon us. I am Lisa, 30 years old. I became a full-time housewife when I got married a year ago. I met my husband Sean about 6 years ago. We were colleagues, and at the same time, we were rivals. Both of us were extremely passionate about our work. We competed to take the initiative for the projects assigned to us by our superior. I refused to lose to him in any project or presentation. They must have had a positive effect. Before I knew it, we had gone from good rivals to good supporters. We were drawn to each other for the way we worked hard at our job. We got married after 2 years of dating. He requested something unexpected at the time of the registry. It may be wrong to ask this to someone who loves working, but I want you to be a full-time housewife. What? A housewife? You see, I'm not saying I don't want to. I'm just a little surprised. To be honest, I was shocked. It just sounded quite an outrageous request at the time. I found the job challenging more than I liked it. It wasn't like I didn't want to do the housework, so it depended on the reason. I didn't mind becoming a housewife, as he put it. Why do you ask me that? He became a little flustered. I'm really not good at housework. What? I think you would most likely end up taking care of the home by yourself. On top of it, if you have to work full-time, it'll be a lot of burden on you. Oh no, I'll be fine. If you really want to continue working, I'm okay with it. But honestly, I want you to be a housewife and take care of the house. Oh, babe. He was aware that it was a selfish request and spoke apologetically from beginning to end. I felt somewhat endeared to him. After thinking about it for a while, I decided to accept his wish. I resigned from my job upon marriage and devoted myself of taking care of the house. However, I regretted my choice right away. I never realized how painful it was to stay at home. It all started with a trivial matter. One day, a few days after I got married, the doorbell rang. I thought it was a courier, so I opened the front door without checking who it was. There stood my mother-in-law, Mary. Oh, hi, Mary. Hey, Lisa. My name is Lisa. All right, whatever. Let me inside. Wait! She forcefully came into the house after mistaking my name. She kicked off her shoes, sat down on a sofa, and made herself at home. Then she looked around the room and let out a deliberate sigh. When I went to the kitchen to make a drink for her, she yelled loudly at me. You stay home all day, but it seems that you can't even clean properly. There's dust on the edge of the picture frame, and your hair is on the floor. Excuse me. I'm planning to clean in the afternoon. Why are you young people so quick to make excuses nowadays? You have no common sense. I'm sorry. I wonder why Sean chose you. I could have found a better match for him. She suddenly showed up and immediately started throwing sarcasm at me. She was the mother of my beloved husband after all. Of course, I didn't want her to dislike me, but recognize me as a member of her family. I wasn't going to talk back to her for those reasons. I kept my mouth shut and just listened to her unreasonable remarks. After that day, she began to come over frequently. She always looked for faults and criticized them. She complained that the house was not tidy enough and that the laundry was left in the dryer. She commented that she felt sorry for Sean for having an incompetent wife, and so on. My nerves were getting frayed by her heartless words. No matter how much stress I felt, I couldn't talk to Sean about it. I thought about asking him for advice many times. In the beginning, if I did, he would have probably got furious and scolded her. But it was highly unlikely that she would have backed down quietly after that. On the contrary, I thought that it would have probably ignited the fire even more. I was too afraid to confide in him when I thought of that. His father passed away when he was in college. Since then, he had been living with her. Her attachment to him was so strong. She once suggested that the three of us should have lived together. He firmly refused her idea, but it was becoming more or less the same as living together as she came over to bully me almost every day after we got married. Then, a turning point came to me. It was on our first wedding anniversary. I was feeling ill and, on Sean's advice, went to the hospital. There I found out that I was pregnant. When I told him about it, he looked at me puzzled. I showed him the echo picture, and he suddenly burst into tears. "Oh my God, we're going to be parents." "Yes, that's right. You're going to be a father." Whoa, I'm so happy that I can't stop crying. Oh, I'm so happy too. I don't know why the tears. Thank you, honey. I'm going to work harder from now on. For the baby's sake, let's both do our best. We will. I was overjoyed when I got married, but I felt a different kind of happiness this time. To have a new life in my belly with the person I loved was much a mysterious and blissful thing. At the same time, a new concern arose. It was Mary, who regularly visited me without an appointment. When she happened to come over, I was so nauseous that I had to run to the bathroom. Of course, this was a symptom of morning sickness, not an illness. She guessed something from the sequence of my actions and grinned at me as I came out of the bathroom. "Are you pregnant?" "Oh, well, I knew it." "Why didn't you tell me when you found out?" "I'm sorry, but I'm suffering from morning sickness right now. I was going to tell you when I was in the stable period." Oh, well, that's okay. But more importantly, I'm assuming it's a boy, right?" Suddenly, I was asked an unexpected question, and my thoughts stopped. We haven't found out the sex yet, and it didn't even make any difference anyway, as long as the baby was born healthy. Her question sounded to have a hidden meaning that only a male baby was worthy of being born. "We don't know the sex yet." "Oh, I see. Well, one boy is enough for the successor. Raising a child costs a lot of money. By all means, have a boy and spend all your money on him." "Well, as I said, we don't know if it's a boy." "Shut up. Just have a boy. Otherwise, you are worthless." She opened the refrigerator with a giggle and grabbed the Jell-O for herself. Sean had bought it for me as I couldn't eat anything else. I felt an emptiness inside, more than anger, and was left with an indescribable taste in my mouth. I sobbed quietly after she left. What was wrong with her? It didn't matter what sex the baby was, as long as it was born healthy. That was all that matters. I thought everyone thought that way. She had experienced childbirth and raising a child before me. How could she say such a thing without a care in the world? Then I was convinced. If I had to deal with her any longer, I would have driven myself crazy during the pregnancy. If I didn't do anything about it, I would have affected not only me, but also my unborn baby. It wasn't a typical thing to go back to one's parents for childbirth. However, I told Sean that I wanted to return home because I was too anxious about my first delivery and decided to leave at 7 months pregnant. Mary complained that it was ridiculous and that I was abandoning my responsibilities at home, but I was not going to take any risk. Sean readily agreed, so I packed up and went back to my parents in another town. He visited me regularly, while I received numerous spiteful messages from Mary every day. "You lack a sense of responsibility as a wife. I feel sorry for your child for having an incompetent mother like you. Have a boy and come back as soon as possible," and so on. All the messages sounded like I was doing something wrong. I felt nauseated every time I saw them, so I turned off the message notification and stopped looking at them. A few months later, I gave birth to a long-awaited first child. It was a girl. She was so adorable that I didn't care about the gender. Sean seemed to feel the same way. He held her in his arms and shed tears of joy.
Thank you, honey. Great job. I can't wait to welcome you guys back home.
I'm looking forward to a new life together.
I'll put the crib together. And if there's anything else you need, I'll take care of it. Call me when you're feeling better.
Thanks for everything, hon. Sean's work was in the midst of its busy season. He was working overtime every day. Although we regularly had video calls, it seemed he was bringing work home, too. Unlikely, his business trip coincided with my return, and my father had to drive me home. It had been a few months. What was different from when I left was that I was holding my beloved baby in my arms. However, I felt something weird once I was in front of the house. Sean was supposed to be away on a trip, but I felt another presence inside. I opened the front door with trepidation, and sure enough, the door was unlocked and the living room light was on. I slowly walked down the hallway and peeked into the living room. To my surprise, Mary was there. "What are you doing here?" She turned around to my voice, and then smiled wryly and slowly approached me.
It's been a long time, Lisa. You're really useless to give birth to a girl.
Answer my question. Why are you in my house?
There's a duplicate key under the pot at the front door.
I haven't told Sean, but I've been coming here regularly. That's trespassing.
What's wrong with a mother visiting her son's house?
She smiled condescendingly and pointed to my room.
By the way, I cleaned up your closet.
For what? What do you mean?
I sold all your stuff. I'm going to the kids with the money I made.
She took out a wad of $100 bills and waved it in front of my face. When I went to check my closet, I found my jewelry box emptied and all my designer's bags gone. I guessed that the bills had come from the sales of my things. I went back into the living room and shouted at her. How dare you? Why did you take my things without my permission?
Why? Of course, it's because I don't like you. You don't even work, but you have expensive stuff.
That's why I sold them all. But how could you go to such length?
Just for childbirth. You overreacted by going back home for so long. It's a punishment for throwing away your responsibilities at home. You should be very sorry for what you did and behave from now on. It was at the moment that my heart instantly shattered.
What the hell? Why did I have to go through this hell? It was unforgivable. I didn't need to put up with her. My body trembled with anger, and the back of my throat flared up. My vision distorted, and her face, smiling fearlessly, crumbled. I was so enraged that I was about to scream my head off at her. At the moment, my daughter started crying, and I came back to myself. I could not stay there any longer. I opened the door to leave the living room with my daughter in my arms. Then I bumped into Sean, who had just returned home. He was full of anger.
Honey, what the hell is going on? What the hell were you saying?
His enraged voice startled not only me, but also Mary. She was probably more freaked out than surprised. Sweating profusely from her face, she rushed to his side.
Sean, when did you get back?
Just a few minutes ago.
When I opened the front door, I heard your loud voice. Did you break into her house and sold Lisa's personal things?
No, it's not what you think.
I was just teaching her a lesson to be a good wife.
You understand that, don't you?
She gave birth to a girl.
You must be upset too.
What's wrong with the girl?
Huh?
She is still our baby, no matter what. Who the hell you think you are to tell us what's right and wrong? I am your mother. She raised her voice in grief, but the expression on his face didn't change. He continued to scold her relentlessly. In addition to trespassing, you are guilty of embezzlement by selling someone's property without permission. What you did is a crime. I will never think of you as my mother again. Listen, I'm doing this for you. What's in it for me? I've never felt so much disgust for someone before. If you ever hurt Lisa again, I'll turn you to the police. Oh no, wait, Sean! Shut up! Get the hell out of here! He grabbed her arm tightly and pulled her towards the front door. She desperately resisted. When her eyes caught mine, she tearfully pleaded with me. Lisa, please help me. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted to make you a good wife. I don't care if the baby is a boy or a girl anymore. Please tell him it's a misunderstanding. Even in such situation, it seemed that an apology was not an option for her. If only she would have apologized from the bottom of her heart, even just once, I would have thought about it. There was no way to save her at that point. I gave a death stare to the woman who had conveniently begun to appeal to me. You don't care if it's a girl or boy? I don't need you to tell me that. An heir? What era do you think you live in? She was not born to be at your beck and call. I put up with your harassment for a long time, but I've had enough. I would never consider your family again. Don't even mention my name from now on. Even when we decide on the baby's name, we will never tell you. I wouldn't even let you see her. I will not let someone like you, who enjoyed stepping on people's hearts, touch her. Now, get out of here and stay the hell away from my family. As soon as I finished, Sean pushed her out the door and threw her bag onto the street. She must have been in great shock. She was crying and apologizing for an hour in front of the house. Of course, we did not react at all. We have completely severed our relationship with her since then. We never let her see her daughter, and when she visits us at home, we never let her in. The only contact we made was to demand compensation for selling my things. When Sean confronted her with the idea of suing her if she didn't pay up, she readily agreed. As a result, her small savings are running out. Now, she can no longer live on her pension alone and works as a cleaner. I don't think I will have anything to do with her again, under any circumstances in the future. Sean must have been prepared for that and cut off the relationship with her. We, on the other hand, are now living happily with the three of us. Now that Mary is out of the picture, I realize how happy I am to be able to spend ordinary days. I'm sure that we will encounter various difficulties in the future. I hope to overcome them with my husband and sometimes with my daughter as a family of 3.